This broadcast is inappropriate for all ages. Right here on hashtag WeAreMovieClub. I am Cameron. Sid, due to unforeseen circumstance, can't be here tonight. So, trigger warning. That's how we got to start this out. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo apparently has a lot of content about rape and abuse. So, if those things bother you, you probably want to steer clear of this one, or at least watch with that knowledge in mind. So I hope that spoiled it for you. Um, it really is. It's a long movie too. It's 2.5 hours, and the themes don't go away. The Swedes like to tackle some heavier movies. Now, I apologize. The other movie that I was thinking about is actually Danish. I know that's not the same thing. Um, but the Europeans in general are not afraid to tackle heavier issues, whereas a lot of Americans like their happy endings. Um, so it is what it is. What it is. The spoiler free version of this is that it's a very heavy movie. It's going to make you feel things and know things and deal with issues that are real in the world. And other than that, it's a rather interesting murder investigation type movie. It's what it is. So if you like that sort of thing, then this is a thing for you. The problem is that it is very much less about the actual murder investigation and more about the characters involved with it. Is how I feel. So you are going to be disappointed if you are looking for only a murder mystery thing, like if you watch a lot of Castle or what's the SVU CSI Miami or whatever the hell they're called. Uh, I watch a lot of murder mystery shows, but they all have like funny gimmicks and the characters are heavily important. But the show is about those characters doing murder investigation, where this is a murder investigation as a mechanic for dealing with the philosophies and the tragedies at hand. Hate saying that over and over again, but it's definitely well put together. It's got good cinematography for what I could see. This version, the version that I was watching that's on Hulu, they actually have all three movies. It's the first part of a trilogy, and if Sid has their way, we will probably watch the second two later on. But yeah, yeah. So there are in Swedish and they're subtitled, and apparently there is an American version that I have no idea about. But hey, there's different ways to watch stuff. Yay! So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end the spoiler-free version right there. I'm just gonna get in talking about the movie, and hopefully this will be a much shorter discussion because again, it was a very long movie, and I felt like it was at points it was drawn out a little bit further than it needed to be. So hopefully we'll be all right here. So let's see. We're opening up. Old guy gets a picture of a flowery plant and cries. There's a zoom in on some girl in a picture. Again, opening scene. We've no context for any of this shit. We get a subway. Some girl walking down a corridor. On the street, we got a news reporter. We go into court. Somebody's losing. It looks like it's the little guy. And I really didn't have the proper context. They're explaining it, but there's so much going on so fast with so little context that I didn't understand what was going on. Apparently, what was going on in retrospect was that the guy who was found guilty, was being put on trial for libel against a company, and the CEO or whatever was trying to counter or was trying to sue him. Or sue him for legal damages. And I don't know how the law works there. I guess you can be responsible for monetary loss, and that's a crime. So that's probably what was happening. So the magazine that he works for, Millennium, they quickly face the reality that he probably needs to not be there for the business. There's some lady there who apparently likes him, so we've got a potential love interest, and that's like a dead start. Like she obviously is all into him, and he, I guess, is not into her, but or he's into her, but he never let it happen, and like he's just kind of being a dead fish about it. Um, we go to some office. Oh yeah, there's some pictures being taken of them. We go to the office. It's some PI. It's the girl from the subway. The movie feels very disjointed. It's just flipping scene to scene to scene to scene. There's a lot going on with very little exposition to line everything together. And we get there, but like it just takes its sweet time getting there. In the corporation, this is where we get a lot of the exposition. Apparently, a larger company hired the girl Lisbeth to track the guy Mikhail or Mick or McKay or whatever. I'll call him Mikhail. Fuck it. Um, to dig up dirt on him, and apparently he's squeaky clean. Um, and I don't know if that's to his credit or not, because it's the same old guy that goes and picks him up after Henrik calls him about an investigation. I'm going to sum up a lot of this because there's a lot of shit that just happens, and it doesn't fucking matter if we're being honest. There's some slow stuff there. The short version is that he ends up taking a job that Henrik offers to investigate the murder of his niece, I think, Harriet, that happened 40 years ago. And that wasn't even made clear for like about another 20 minutes from that point. So like I didn't understand like why the old guy from the corporation was there. Apparently he's a representative of the Vanger group, which is the family that Henrik's part of, that ends up ultimately hiring him, if we're being honest, because Henrik signs a contract on behalf of the Vanger group, even though he's not like in charge of it at the moment. But apparently he retains some kind of administrative rights for that. So okay, so yeah, Henrik finally shows. Yeah, we're just gonna move past that. So they're explaining like some background on some of the family members, and we're getting filled in, which is really kind of a fucking red herring because obviously none of this information matters. Because they're essentially telling us who couldn't have done it because of where they were and how they were involved. So you're eliminating suspects. So there are like 30 suspects at the beginning, because the whole idea is that someone in the family bumped off Harriet to get at an inheritance, which is kind of a shitty thing, but it's a commonplace trope, so it's very possible. Let's see. Okay, at the station, Elizabeth gets a call that her guardian has a stroke, and at this point I was thinking the company had offed him to get control of her, because I had envisioned a completely different movie. But so she ends up going to an office. To meet her new guardian. Her new guardian is apparently like just kind of a dick. He calls into question the old guardian. She says she's 24. I think she's like 16 or something, because they're God, the age in Europe is much lower for things like that here. She shouldn't need a guardian. She's definitely not 24. But he's a dick anyways, and he starts making very suggestive comments very early on, and I don't understand how Sweden, of all places, wouldn't have more stringent types of things for this. Or how that could be a weighty threat for him to call her probation officer, and have it be his word against hers in that staggering of degree. So back at the mansion, they're talking about background on stuff. Jesus, it just feels so empty. But he's essentially got a 6-month timer before he goes to prison because of the trial. Again, not sure how the law works there, but he's just free to roam around for about 6 months before he goes to jail. I think the idea is to get his affairs in order, but can't imagine why 6 months. Like, I would think 3 would be the lengthy time for that sort of thing. Um, of course, the lady from Millennium's upset that he's leaving to go stay at the place while he investigates that thing freelance. Um, and for whatever reason, Elizabeth is still investigating him. I don't know at which point she actually starts uh, being interested in him, or if maybe it's just the fact that she tries to dig up dirt and she finds that he's clean. Because from the start, she thinks he's been set up, and that makes her sympathetic to him. So there's a lot of things that are leaning that cause some affinity for him towards him from her. There we go. Words and stuff, people. Words and stuff. Um, so yeah, so Mikhail gets there and like they load up a bunch of evidence for him to go through. 40 years worth of newspaper articles and police reports and just ridiculous amounts of stuff. And so, like, Henrik actually takes him on a tour of the grounds. They shows him where everybody lives and, like, who might or might not be a suspect, or just ridiculous. And for whatever reason, we have this little bit about it being 20 degrees Celsius and dropping out there. Uh, it's just really, it was a funny bit because it didn't belong at all. And then, like, now that I'm getting actively mad when I'm thinking about it, because 2.5 hours, you can cut shit like that out. It didn't matter. We understand it's cold. And that he's not enjoying himself there. I don't think that needed to be such a big point. But he's over, Godfried's here. But Cecilia surprises him, that apparently, like, she's kind of into him. But it becomes very clear that with all the family associations, you can't track down circumspect based on location, because they're all family. They're all going to visit each other. Everybody's going to be everywhere. Everyone has access to everywhere, basically. It's not going to be anything where, like, it's like, oh, someone wasn't supposed to be here, so obviously there was something foul afoot. No. No, he came over for poker. We do that every other Thursday, and on the third Thursday, we play Parcheesi. So yeah, and then he's talking to the police inspector. The inspector thinks it's a waste of time because it was his first case, and now he's retiring, and it's going to be his last case. It's amazing. It's amazing to think that like a case would actually last 40 years like that. And I know when cases go cold, they go cold, but fuck, Sweden's not that big a place. Norway maybe, but like, and it doesn't have a high rate of crime. And that's actually a really good thing to note that. Here in America, we have violent, crazy movies all the time, and the suspension of disbelief for those is not very great. But the suspension of disbelief for crimes in Europe, like England and Sweden, especially with guns, it has to be crazy high because there are not guns in legal guns other than farmers in England. Even the cops don't really carry pistols. So only the criminals have them there. And then in Sweden, if I am remembering correctly, everyone is required to have a rifle to protect their home. But you have to have it like in a case and all this stuff. And you have to have it inspected and your license renewed and all this. Unless you fill the paperwork out to be a conscientious objector. But they have like no gun crime there because everyone is trained and everyone is schooled and everyone is aware, and it's just culturally that they don't like guns. They don't see it as a big thing. So let's see. Yeah. So back. So why did I skip that? I even wrote chaps somewhere. So I don't know where it went. But apparently Elizabeth... Oh, okay. So I did skip a little bit. But Elizabeth got jumped by some chaps, or chavs. And if you ever want to know what chavs were, it's those assholes. And fuck them very much, because... Fucking... really made me want to kick their ass. I hate that, like, people were there and like watching and just not doing shit, and she managed to fight them off, and good for her. But I really wish she had like slit a throat if we're being honest. Because then maybe they would have realized not to do that in the future. Because now they're just going to be try to make sure it's someone they can handle. But I think if one of them died in front of them, it would have been different. Ugh. I'm in a great mood, by the way. Uh, and this movie does not help shit. So of course she has to go to the Guardian. Of course she's asking him for her money, which I think is horseshit. Um, and I don't understand how he's able to do the things that he said he was going to do, like put in a separate account that he administers when she already has the account that he can't administer. It's stupid. Um, so he ends up like just ugh. He's talking pervy. He's closing blinds. He slaps her, taunts her, threatens her, puts his hand down her shirt, undoes his pants, and forces himself down her throat. Uh, for the love of God, bite down and swallow when that happens, because there is no reason for his dick to be in your mouth, so you have every reason to bite it off. You have every right to bite it off, and if you swallow it, it's permanent damage at that point, and he can't remove or clean up the evidence without cutting you open. Um, so even if he lives long enough to kill you, he's not getting away with shit. Um, oh my god. Then he only gives her like a third of what she wanted or what she needed or whatever, and that's just to maintain control. Um, so Mikhail's investigating things, and he is just digging into everything. He ends up pulling like just binders of photos out and going through it to look at the parade where she was last sighted, and apparently she sees somebody across the street, and it's noted in the pictures because someone was up on the roof just taking pictures where she happened to be. There's a lot of serendipity in this story trying to piece together this murder, and I can only imagine that like murders in real life that have anywhere near this amount of evidence towards them are like that, where it just happens to be this and this and this. Um, but it's funny he's making progress. I think Cecilia tries to do him. There's a lot of things going on to keep suspect up essentially, and it's really kind of ridiculous. I wish we had not played at it so much. It's like, yeah, it could have been her, but really, we don't think it is. So, God. So, of course, Elizabeth has another fucking stint of trying to get money out of her guardian. And he just does, like, the most fucked up shit. I don't even want to talk about it, but, like, the short version is that, he rapes the shit out of her. Just really, what the fuck? The thing that really got to me before it really started going was that he was like, he dared to say that she might have enjoyed it last time. Like, no. Like, there are people that go that direction. This character obviously is not one of them. But afterwards, she lives home. And I'm really like, why isn't she calling the police? Is she that scared? But bless her, she got video evidence. That's some fucking dedication. And she didn't think, of course, she didn't think it was going to go that badly. But unfortunately, oh my god, I don't even want to talk about this shit. But unfortunately, that's kind of what you have to do to tackle these issues. Is you have to be willing to put yourself on the line to prove that people are that horrible because they have to do something in order for you to punish them for it, because we live in a place, in theory, where you're innocent until proven guilty. Um, as long as people want to like play that game. Oh god, I'm gonna kill myself after this. This is so fucking depressing. But that's such dedication for her to do that. And I was kind of hoping she'd go to the police, but she's kind of got a thing against the police. I think that's obvious enough at that point in the movie. So Mikhail starts finding like a thread of a story in the parade that wasn't seen before. The tourists from the carpentry place that were there. And of course, it was 20 years ago or whatever, so they're not gonna remember shit. So she's an old lady now. He's talking to her. and he manages to get like this fuzzy picture of a guy in a blue sweater, which is really funny because most of the picture's in black and white, so I don't know how they knew the picture was blue or how the sweater was blue. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. Um, but oh my god, I loved it. I loved it so much when she went back to see the Guardian again. Super brave of her. Um, I can't believe he was aghast that she didn't make an appointment. Like, really, you're off your fucking nut there. Like, at least read what you got in front of you. But she stun guns him, which is fantastic because I heard the noise and I was like, it's gonna happen. And I think he was just in shock of it. And he even, if anyone has you tied up and you've wronged them, don't even fucking pretend like you're in charge. I'm just saying. But I love that she shoved the dildo up his ass and he cried like a little bitch. It doesn't hurt that much. Just get over it. Oh, God. And then she makes him watch the rape video for the full duration. And that apparently doesn't have enough of an effect on him. I don't, I don't know, maybe, like, I don't know what that necessarily does for him. But she gives him a very clear set of rules on everything, and he nods to everything. And my favorite bit is that she tattoos "I'm a sadistic pig" and "a rapist" on his chest. So honestly, he can't. It'd be very hard for him to ever have a normal relationship. So, but part of that is also like that. Also means the only outlet that he has is his fucking little rape shits. But it also means he can't necessarily go to the doctor and show that either. I don't know. Maybe that falls under doctor-patient confidentiality. I don't know. But I'm hoping that that means that they have to report a crime. Um, and almost, I was thinking like if we did a hard candy and she just castrated him, so that he couldn't do it again. That actually may have been a kindness. Hard Candy is another excellent movie starring Ellen Page, where we have fucking a guy who allegedly at that point in the story, I don't even know if like we know that for a fact, allegedly was a predator, and then she was taking justice into her own scalpel. Oof. Elizabeth goes back to spying on Mikhail again. I don't know why, honestly, especially after all that happening with her guardian. I would think like she'd be very male adverse, and we see a hint of that at some point because yeah, she has a lady in her bed in a couple scenes. But Elizabeth is the one that cracks the 5-digit codes. It turns out they're Bible verses. I don't know who would write Bible verses that way, but apparently if you're trying to keep it coded so that other people don't notice, that's probably a good way to do it. So Henrik has a heart attack. The old guy from the very beginning is there encouraging Mikhail to continue his work. Of course, he goes and sees Elizabeth while she has a lady friend. The short version, there's a bunch of, they could have fast forwarded a lot of this. They start working together. They start piecing together. Of course, Elizabeth is up to date, and they start looking into the connections on the religious side of it, dealing with the Bible verses, and the Bible verses being clues about how the women are killed. So they find murders matching the names or abbreviations thereof, and then the method of being killed. There's one that was like cut up and placed places. There's another one that was killed with the animals. Just nonsense. And it's the motivation part of it didn't seem to matter. Like it didn't like it's not that the one girl was selected because she was a medium and the other girl was selected for bestiality. It just really seemed like they went Old Testament. They pulled the hardcore nasty shit out of there because let's face it, the Jewish religion was designed to put people in order and have them follow guidelines from the elders. It's what it was there for. Let's see here. So Elizabeth is really the one that cracks a lot of this. I don't think Mikhail does a whole lot, and good for her. but he ends up driving her around. They go visit a couple places. They get information. They really go through this whole thing. And again, most of the reason of going to these different scenes and different places is to build the familiarity between the characters and build that relationship. The amount of evidence collected is actually minimal throughout a lot of this. But it's very important, so they have to get it from somewhere, and it doesn't necessarily make sense that they can get everything from the internet. So this becomes like a big mechanical type thing of like necessity more than anything. Um, but of course, when they get back, because this was another point of them being gone, somebody obviously nearby has picked the lock and gone through everything. Um, and then that we realize that Elizabeth has photographic memory, which, given her tragic past, is not a good thing because she remembers everything perfectly. And I think the proper term is eidetic memory, where photographic is like, oh, I see an image, I remember the image. Eidetic is that you remember everything. And if she has a big, beautiful brain like that, then yeah, tragedy is not a good thing to have in your life because you can't block it out. But she goes to Mikhail. Mikhail's hesitant, and then great brave moment for her that she does him and leaves. It's a little funny, but because she's socially awkward, it's just what it is. She's on the spectrum. If you know who Sheldon Cooper is, it's a similar situation, only not as severe. And the morning's awkward but cute. They go to Mikhail goes to the hospital to visit Hendrik. We've established that Elizabeth doesn't like hospitals. Which takes such a long time for that to kick in. He goes to see the inspector for some reason. Like, I think it's really like they hit scenes that they wanted later, and then they were like, well, in order for this to work, you have to have a scene where he tells them that. So they do just that. They cut to a scene where he's at the river fly fishing, and they have a quick conversation, and then it's done. So let's skip over a bunch of this. The next big thing is the tribunal. What the fuck? The rest of the family tries to put Mikhail on trial, basically, and it takes the little steward guy to be like, no, he's got a contract. He's protected. Fuck off. And then, like, during Cecilia's, like, apology, because she likes him, it becomes clear that Anita and Harriet, were mixed up in the evidence. And then other things start coming to light with that. Now, I still, like, having watched the movie, I still don't know what happened to Anita. Oh, no, she died of cancer. That's correct. But Harriet is still missing, by all accounts. Oh, yeah, but yeah, he goes out in the woods and somebody shoots at him. Like, they managed to, like, hit him in the head and make him bleed, but he's not dead. Elizabeth starts setting up cameras, and then she lets him stay in the bed. I think partly because she felt bad for him. Even though, and then he starts being like kind of a prying dick about it, but gently at the same time. Morel shows up with the last case I think that they need to work with. Realize it's Jewish names that actually link everybody together, so the Old Testament nonsense actually makes sense. The Old Testament nonsense also, and then being Jewish also leads to believe that it's anti-Semitic, which points towards Nazis. Earlier in the movie, we did establish that there are Nazi connections within the family, and I don't understand why they weren't ostracized or disavowed from the family. And of course, like, they split up and do some investigation. Elizabeth starts going through nonsense at the library to try to corroborate evidence for people's locations during the murders and who had access to what. And Mikhail gets his hands dirty and starts investigating the grounds, because of course he does. And his buddy Godfrey, or Martin, or whatever the fuck his name is, I'm going to call him Godfrey because I think he's Martin Godfrey, ends up sedating him. He beats him up, throws water at him to wake him back up. This huge villain's exposition about how everything was happening, why he likes killing, the fact that it was just to facilitate the rape. Like, it's just like, really, we can't get away from it. It's just a theme that Fucking, there are monsters in the world. Um, and of course, Elizabeth comes in to save the fucking day with the golf club, and I just loved her beating the shit out of him, and I really wish she had made them count. Because I think she broke his arm and hit him in the head once, but she really should have brained him a couple more times. And then she tries to run him down on a motorcycle, and the dude's in a Jeep. It's fucking awesome. That's actually a really good scene, and it could have been a lot better. They ended up really kind of fucking it up on it. Like, because his arm's hurt, he runs off the road, or runs across the road a little bit, enough to scare this truck that fishtails into him and knocks him off the road. It's really very serendipitous with all the events. And then I thought she set him on fire. I thought she like threw her cigarette down to where the gasoline was and he burned. But obviously she could have saved him and didn't. Who gives a fuck? Fuck that guy. World is better off without people like that. And I would even encourage you, let villains be dead. It's the one way people will not do bad things. Um, it's just the fact of it. Ugh. And then, of course, in the lair, there's just this orgy of evidence. There's names, there's dates, there's pictures of the murders. I think he even had, like, times of how long it took them to die. It's ridiculous the types of things people will put down when they think they can get away with shit. Blah. Blah. But they have a nice little confrontation there. There's an extreme difference in philosophy. Elizabeth is almost very American in her philosophies. It's very practical. It's like, no, we gotta kill him and be done. And I say American, but it's American conservative, if you really want to be honest. And he's very, what I consider European about it. He's like, no, everybody deserves the chance to be saved. It reminded me a lot of Punisher and Daredevil talking. But that's okay. And they actually have a nice talk, like, even after all that. And she goes and lays down with him. But that's the end of the movie right there. We did not need these other 7 to 10 scenes of bullshit. Now, I guess if you are writing an epilogue in transition to another movie, fine. Cut the last half hour out and make it its own thing. So you have the movie, and then you have the epilogue, which is a separate thing that I can opt in to watch if I want to. Because, quite honestly, I didn't want to fucking watch any more of this movie by the time it hit this point. I wanted to be done. We ended on an up note, and we didn't need any more fucking tragedy to deal with. Just, it's a lot of sloping down. It kind of slopes up towards the end, and we hit something positive. Oh. And then I would have watched the epilogue, before I watched the next one. If we're being honest. So he goes to the lake. He tells the family about Godfrey, how he doesn't think he killed Harriet, because you honestly really don't know. Godfrey just act like he would have loved to kill her, which I think means he would have wanted to rape her. But and then of course Elizabeth is gone when Mikhail gets back, but she left information about finding Anita Wagner in Australia, and it turns out that of course Harriet took her sister's identity and moved to Australia. Now she did note 2 Anita Wagners or whatever. One of them moved to London and died of cancer. The other one was in Australia, and that was Harriet. And they apparently looked that close alike that no one ever questioned it. Of course, Elizabeth finally goes to see her mom in her little hospital or whatever. There's a nice, sweet, or a very tragically sweet bit about mom wanting to have a better father for Elizabeth. Mikhail brings Harriet back to Hendrik. Harriet admits to killing her father because he was raping her since she was 14. And I hope you're as sad as me by this point. Then we get back on the train. Mikhail's being kind of pathetic. And of course we know that he's at the end of his 6-month period before he goes to prison. We have no idea how long he goes to prison. And if you notice, in his prison, there's no door on the cell. So I don't know what that's about. But it basically looks like a college dorm room, so on him. He's Swedes are pretty easy on their prisoners, I guess. I don't know. But she brings him some reading. He just wants to see her, and of course, because he's madly in love with her, rightly so. And she's, of course, very um, troubled and tragic, and so she's fighting all this emotion. She doesn't know what to do with it, so she gives this mad, passionate kiss, and it really was a nice moment. And it made me wish I was kissing somebody. But he goes back and he reviews the information, and he ends up writing this another article. And this time, the guy, upon the story breaking, ends up committing suicide. But I mean, I guess it's in the air whether or not like it was actually a murder that looked like a suicide, because apparently Elizabeth is undercover somewhere and she leaks that information to Mikhail. So I would suspect, and that's where we end. That's the fucking weird ass ending. But I would suspect that the thought process is that she and Mikhail are going to end up crossing paths again and investigating something else in the next one, or it's maybe we're just following Elizabeth. Maybe she moves on to another lover. I don't know. I think these were books written to kind of pick up on the the Twilight formula, which really was like the Stephanie Meyer's approach to doing Harry Potter, but on a smaller young adult scale, on a smaller scale on a young adult category. And since then, we've just had this plague of shit happen. So I hate Stephanie Myers just for that. Wrapping up, the movie made me feel sad. It's a very heavy movie, and if you are not in the mood or your life is not going super great, it may make you more sad. Fair warning. And again, trigger warning. If you didn't pick up on that, there's a lot of sensitive material covered in this movie. But if you enjoyed anything we had, or I had to say today, by all means, hit us up at WeAreMovieClub on the Twitters. We are definitely looking to add more people into the conversation. If you would like to talk about movies with us, let us know, and maybe we can get you involved. You can pick your own very own movie to add into Movie Club, and we can go from there. But yeah, I think that's it. That's all I really got on this one. I don't have a lot to say. This isn't like a favorite movie of mine. This isn't an old throwback. And maybe a week from now I'd have more to say about it, but oh my gosh, I'd be happy not to talk about this until we discuss the sequel, if that's what's going to happen. But I'm Cameron. I thank you for watching. Until you see us next time, this has been #WeAreMovieClub. You want to see anything else we're up to, go ahead and click the annotations and it'll take you to our other channels. Thanks for watching.